Hi guys, I'm making a miniature tree today, so I wanted to share the process of how I'm doing it. It's a pre-bought little plastic tree that I'm adding moss to, and I'm just using a hot glue gun. I built the base. It's a little bit rough, but I'm going to go over the edges and clean it up a bit. It's for more gaming. My goodness, what are you people doing up, even? Like, really? So, yeah, I just thought I'd share what I'm up to. I've also been building a little house. It's all to wargame scale. Got my little team of dudes. So obviously this is quite a large house for the size of the guys. I'm bracing it at the moment because the glue is still drying. So I've been making this little tree for the last hour or so, and I thought it might be really cool to show you how I do it. So I've got some dollar store moss, and I'm using a hot glue gun to attach it onto this really cheap plastic figure which I bought. Unfortunately, I'm going to run out of moss because there was only one bag, and there's different types of moss in the bag, but this particular type of moss, this is the end of it. So I'm going to just go as far as I can go. My hope is to finish this as a placemat prop. And yeah, I'm just using some recycled materials here. I've got this is not recycled material. I actually bought this new. This is like a shelf liner, and it's really good for grippiness. I actually bought it to be cobblestone streets, but I'm just using a section. The top of this is from a picnic table cover, which looks really nice. And I'm going to do something to cover the edges, maybe some rocks or something. And I did a little experiment with some kitty litter. It's actually kitty litter that I've glued in place there, which is the perfect size for for gravel. So thanks everyone who just actually is tuning in right now. That's pretty cool. In the background you can see some of my designs for the house, and then my shopping list. It's on the front. There we go. Alrighty, I'm still waiting for my glue gun to heat up. So, my goodness, we've got a lot of folks up tonight. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. So, I'm just talking about finishing off this little tree for the war game that I play. Take that out the way. Don't think that needs to be clamped anymore. Okay. Alrighty. Let's see if this glue gun is heated up. Yep, still a little bit to go. Alright, so first things first, yeah, good to see you too. First things first, whenever you're working with a glue gun, always have everything set up, like, ready to just pick it up and put it in place, because every second counts. So I'm just going to rearrange my moss here. I've got all my dollar store moss. Right now I'm just pulling it apart so that it's in separate little branches. I might be able to reuse some of the other type as well. We've got two types of moss all entwined. So So I'm just gently teasing it apart. Wow, we got a lot of folks. Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. Another thing I like to have on hand when I'm making minis is a brush, just because there's so much dust that's generated whenever you're working, and when you're working on miniatures, obviously it affects things faster because the scale makes all dust much lighter, so it's just easier to keep it all separated. And like I said, I'm actually going to run out of moss, unfortunately, before this tree is covered, but that's alright. I can get more tomorrow. So right now I'm just separating. I've got 2 different types of moss here. Yes, I have been up all night doing this. Not just the tree, I've been doing other things as well. Yeah, my room is in some state of disarray because I have caught the miniature making bug and been madly making stuff, like going on probably 6 hours now. So I'm just gently teasing out all the stuff that doesn't look like this, because I want the tree to be relatively clean. Like, I don't want it to look like it's old or gnarly. This the world that this takes place in is maritime, so everything's like post-apocalyptic, like a post-apocalyptic medieval environment, medieval fantasy. So there's like Skaven and dwarves and elves as well as human mercenaries and everything. Just looking through this old city that's been destroyed by comets, looking for a type of precious stone. And so a lot of the city is like really, really rough and ruined and broken down, but there's still people living in the city, so the parts of it are inhabitable. So the figures that I want to make are going to be very much like nature's taking over again, like everything's like growing over all the old ruins. So I wanted this tree to have like a vibrant feel, even though it's in the midst of all this destruction. Cool. So what I've done is I've glued on each of these plastic branches, and I do them one at a time. I'm starting from the lowest and working high, because it's harder to do it in reverse. It's much easier to go from below and then build your way up. Alrighty. So let's just get all this excess out the way. Just gonna put that in there for later. Hi guys who've just joined, welcome. Okay, so I'm going to look at my remaining layout. Now ultimately I want this tree to be a bit thicker, but for now I want to focus on getting good coverage at least along one more branch. We can say that this branch is dead or something, I don't know, until I get more moss. So I'm going to be building up from the bottom to the top and continuing on in the trend. Now I did do a dry fit before I started this tree to make sure that I did have enough moss, and when I did the dry fit I wasn't attaching it to each branch, which is why I wasn't able to see that there wasn't actually enough for the whole tree. But it's always a good idea when you are gluing or something to make sure everything goes in place before gluing it in. So I'm just setting out my branches now. The moss is all tangled up, so I'm just slowly releasing it. Come on, let go, let go. Super gentle, just teasing it apart. Come on. There we go. Alrighty, so I've got a couple small bits down there. Nice big branch there. Another one. And another one here. By the way, if my voice puts you to sleep, that I will not be offended. So alrighty. Wow, we've got a lot of folks. Hey everyone. Goodness. So now what I would be doing is putting the glue. I have two ways of doing this. The first way is to actually put it on the branch and then wind the moss around it. The second way is to dip the moss into the tip of the glue gun. I've got my glue gun set up over here, and I've actually got a clamp holding it so that it doesn't slip off the desk whilst I'm not holding it. As you can see, I don't have a proper workshop at the moment, so kind of working with what I got. Stay. This is why I shouldn't move things ever. Stay. Okay. Alrighty. So I only have a few seconds to put things in place after the glue is there. And as you can see, I am using my fingers to hold it in place. Not recommended practice, but I happen to have fairly resilient fingers. Oh, okay, that hurt. I've got a little bin on the floor right here, so I can just drop off any excess glue into it. It's okay, if you're wide awake, you're wide awake. That's all good, mate. Have a beer. Oh, no, don't have a beer. Have a cup of tea or something. Whatever you choose. Alright, so this piece that I just attached and scalded myself, it's on there, but I feel like it could do with a little bit more glue. It's not the most precise method, but it works for this. All right. What have we got? I really wish I could have more coverage on this side, and I'm missing... Ooh, am I missing a bit there? Yes, I am. Okay. Got a bit of moss hanging off. No, that doesn't want to stay. Blast. Okay. So I'm just going to trim that gigantic globule that I put on there. Alrighty. Excuse me. I might leave that for now. Focus on the rest of it. So I had my first game of Mordheim the other day, and I had my ass completely handed to me by my friend who was playing the Sisters of Sigmar, which are the equivalent of the Amazons in the game world. And I thought I'd made a sound choice by choosing dwarves. I thought that the dwarves would be tough and good for finding treasure and surviving. They've got a really high leadership initiative, and the the possibility of them getting like intimidated or driven from the field of battle by losing great numbers is lower because they're dwarves, so they're very stubborn and they're very tough. And they move slowly, but they're like little tiny tanks. So I was like, sure, I'll play dwarves. I was actually quite excited about playing dwarves. I still am excited, but I had my ass handed to me by my friend who completely crushed me with her Sisters of Sigmar. She just kept rolling. She kept rolling 5s and 6s, which are the only things you can use to hit dwarves. And I took out 3 of my crossbowmen. The dwarves have amazing range with their weapons. Like, they can shoot halfway across the game board. And I was relying on them for my strategy of Tabarnak. My strategy was solely reliant on these little crossbow welding guys to survive, and she just took them out one after another, and before I knew it I had like 20% of my army gone. So I had to roll for leadership, and then when she took out the leader of my gang, I was like, I had to forfeit the game because because if I'd have kept going and she killed all my troops, I would have to pay gold to like restart my warband. So it was much better that I like retreated, because not all my dudes died. So yeah, my friend, it was her first game, and she was actually learning as she went, and she was super happy about that. Just reading the comments. What do we got? I remember making models for my scenic design class. Time consuming, but a lot of fun. Kind of miss it. Do it again. It's really fun. Yeah, I did the same for set design as well. I had a lot of fun. What's the time where I am? It is 5 in the morning here in Montreal. Yep, getting occasionally owned in game is part of the learning process. Yes, I have taken a lot of learning from that, which is don't get close to the Sisters of Sigmar. Avoid the heck out of them. Ow. You know, it's funny. When I'm here by myself doing this, I don't actually make noises when I burn myself. Really. I mean, I could use tweezers, but it's just easier to use your hands sometimes. It's not doing any permanent damage, it's just burning me. I can't find any band-aid emojis. No, it's okay. Band-aids would just get in the way. Stay. Arg. This moss does not want to behave. That's alright. What gives it that quality means it'll be very dynamic when it's actually on the game board. So that's pretty good. To give you an idea of scale, got a little dude here. There. Hang on. Lift them up together. Better. Super cool. Yeah, I think I've got enough of that tree still. That branch, I mean. That's looking really nice. My original thought for this was actually to have a like a well going around it, like a little wall or something. You know how you see in cities where the trees are like planted within some kind of enclosure to protect them from passers-by or paving or whatever. And the well that I keep calling it a well. The thing that I made, I have this really nice found object which I picked up at work. I think it was on the ground outside outside the studio, and this is this really nice thin piece of metal, very worn. It's got a really nice aesthetic to it. So I thought that would be nice as a ring around the tree, with a wee wall underneath it. So that was my idea, and then the trees like growing up in between it. But unfortunately, the way that I constructed the plate, the thing that it's sitting on, I can't think of words. This bit, I know what it's called. The way that I constructed it means that the wall doesn't actually go with it very well, because it's not, first of all, it's not even on the ground. I used a bumpy bottom to this to give it like an organic kind of ridgy grass feel. but unfortunately the wall doesn't rest evenly on it, and then it also doesn't dress the edge, because when I built this, I didn't take into account that it needed to sit on the outside. Now I could do it again, I could rebuild this on the outside of the tree, but I want to see how it looks as an individual standalone tree, because it could also be used outside of the city if I don't build a wall around it. So we'll see how we go. And with the standalone one, it can actually be like a city fountain kind of thing. I have this really cool thing that I picked up. It's a holograph, which it's not going to show up in my camera because there's only one point of view from my camera. But it's, if I look at this, it's like moving back and forth. So my thought was to actually put the oops. Hang on, let me set it up. To actually cut out part of the holograph and put it at the bottom of the fountain, so when you look at it, it's like moving. It's really cool. So it's perfectly sized to the size of the moon, which was a happy accident. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'll do that later. Yeah, I hit up the dollar store for most of my materials, because there's a whole lot of stuff with a bit of creativity can be used to make minis. This was actually like some interior bathroom decoration. It was like this terrible bonsai, like horrendous bonsai with like plastic fish tank decorations on the top, and it was like loosely packed onto like these pebbles that had been stuffed into polystyrene that was like inside a fairly nice like dish or something, but it's like an affront to bonsai, because the whole concept of bonsai is like dedicating your life into this beautiful tiny living creature and like maintaining it painstakingly over decades. And there's like this horrendous plastic abomination that you can just buy. So I reclaimed it. Aha, I have a wee pool of hot glue over here. I'm actually using a silicon disc, which is from the bottom of when we make silicon at work. There's always like a little bit left over in the cups, so I collect them because they're really useful for this kind of thing, like catching glue. How am I going to do this? Oh, that is way too much glue. That all came away. Okay, I'll cut that off later. B1, come on. Come on. Nope, I botched that. Okay, never mind. I was trying to save the glue that had already leaked out of the glue gun, but it was too cool. So, too cool for school. Just clean that up. Oh dear, I have to keep going. Oh, no, that was my beer. I'll save it later. I can hear it buzzing, bubbling. Okay, that didn't work at all because the moss was too weak. Oh well. unfortunately all my beer fell on, on my tiny anvil. So let's try this again. So hot. But it worked. Bitter. There's all these tiny little threads of glue that are lacing everywhere like spider webs. Come on. Come on. Okay. I have to trim off that glue, that excess glue later. Okay. Come on. Ugh, it looks like such a mess. Damn. The problem is that this particular moss is very, very fragile, and I'm trying to join it. I'm trying to join it at a relatively weak spot, so it's not behaving because it wants to fall off. My fingers have had enough. Oh no, now the... this is why I use fingers. God damn it. Stay. It's gonna look so good. Okay, I have to trim that off. Did it work? No, it did not. So close. Come on. Join. Ah, okay. There we go. Exciting stuff here, guys. I have faith. Persistence is key. Yes, I quite agree. Thank you for your faith. Yeah, I'm actually quite pleased with it. It's turning out nicely. So at this juncture, my choice is how I want to finish off this particular branch, because it's a little thin compared to the rest of it. So I can either double up on this branch here and make it more full-bodied, or I could come and populate this branch here. I'm going to go for the full-bodied one because I don't want the tree to look so scraggly. I'd much rather have it look like it's like got a couple of dead branches than have like an overall tree that is unfinished in all the areas. Like I'd like it to be finished in some areas rather than not quite looking how I want it to. So almost out of moss, alas. No. This is why it's better to use fingers. I wanted to stick with the tweezers. Stay. I don't trust that. Excuse me. And then I've got all those little tiny spider webs everywhere. The things we do for art, yes. Alrighty. I will have to trim a lot of this glue off because it's very noticeable, but that's fine. I don't mind doing that. Sorry guys. That's better. There we go. There we go. So many spider webs. It's a little flat on the top, but for the most part it looks pretty good. Thank you. Alrighty, what next if not the tree? Or at least the branches. I mean, I could trim it. I could do the trimming on the glue, except that I still have more gluing to do tomorrow. Today, tomorrow. So, I'll focus on the base perhaps. Try to get that aspect finished. No, stay. Alrighty, so what am I going to do next? Other than toss it over the edge of the table. So I need to glue this. I need to glue the roots down a wee bit more, because they're sitting up away from the base. There's a little bit of visible separation there, so I'll glue those down and maybe do a wee bit more detailing with the cat litter gravel would be good. Going to work. Yes, it is. Excellent. I need a beer. I'll be right back. Excuse me. Cheers, guys. Alrighty, so I've got some moss here that I think I'll use a little bit for the bottom after I've glued down the roots. Just have to decide how I'm going to glue down the roots. I mean, I could just use the glue gun again, but it's just a little imprecise. The only thing. Oh well. See how I go. Oh, it's working. Great. Easy. This may entertain you to hear this, but in my head I have full-on 80s music, like disco music, going full bore. Currently listening to Don't Leave Me This Way. Yeah, the original version, not the Moulin Rouge version. Sorry, blocking the view. I was very focused on what I was doing there. So that's working quite nicely, getting those roots down. Alrighty, I'm definitely going to have to dress that because the glue is quite visible. I don't want to have to paint more than what's already there because there is a game tomorrow and I'd much rather be building than painting, honestly. Come on. Stay. Oops. There's actually a gap right underneath the base of the tree, which I saw when I set it in, but I thought it was going to be, at the time that I set it in, I thought it was going to be surrounded by the wall, so the base would not, the gap between the base and the trunk would not be visible. I mean, it's still not that visible, honestly. Oh well. Now, what to do? Let's see what it looks like with a wee bit of moss. Ooh, I found another piece for the branch. Aha, and another. Excellent. Yeah, that should be enough. Okay, let's figure this out. And first things first, I'll glue these two bits on. When you've run out of materials and the bottom of the bag yields you some scraps, it feels like a special treasure. Great. That's exactly what I wanted. Awesome. Now, I could have just like grabbed a bunch of moss and just stuck it on the top and glued it in there rather than individually joining it to every single branch, but the overall effect would be quite different. So we've got some discussion of, Blondie, nice. The fingers are blistered. My fingers are blistered. I have foolishly injured myself. Yeah, that was unwise. It's the second reason why I got a beer. It's not just because I wanted it, it's because it's actually cooling down my poor fingers. Tahaha. Self-inflicted. Very foolish. Thank you for asking. Okay. I do not know how this is going to go. I kind of feel like moss is a bit overused in miniature environments, so I don't want to use a lot of it if I can't help it. Maybe along the edges. Yeah, not sure about that. Alrighty, plan B is the cat litter. Turn off my glue gun. How am I going to do this? The cat is on my bed upside down, making ridiculous faces at me. Like, why are you still awake kind of faces. Yep. And now he's rolling on his back, squeaking at me in an attempt to get me to pay attention to him. It's working. It's very effective. Just looking for a stick to spread my glue with. I used to have so many tongue depressors. Like, hundreds. I have one now. Don't know what happened to them. Maybe I used them. That is the cat, not my stomach. Alrighty. I'll make it a bit smaller.